You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And today, I'm really looking forward to today's Mindset and Motivation Monday. And one of the reasons I am is that I've been saving this question for a couple weeks now. It actually came in, I think about 2 weeks ago on the house call Ask Cabral page, which is just stephencabral.com/Ask Cabral. And of course, and hopefully you're tuning in every Saturday and Sunday to all of our community questions. I mean, they're absolutely amazing. And it's my way of giving back to a lot of the people I may never be able to meet or talk with in person. But this one particular question, for whatever reason, I read it, I thought it was really sincere and an excellent question that many of us struggle with. And honestly, it was probably something that I struggled with really for the first 20, 25 years or so of my life. And that's why I want to let everyone know that no matter what age you are, no matter where you're at in your life, you absolutely can change. And that's what today is all about, but in a very specific way. So this person wanted to be left as anonymous, which is perfectly acceptable. They wrote in, "Thank you, love your enthusiasm. What is your best solution for me? Have never had that joie de vivre, not as a child, and now as an adult, healthy mom of four, and well education in health and nutrition. Thank you." So basically what this person is asking is, they're a healthy mom, they study health, they study nutrition, they have 4 kids, they're doing okay, but the joie de vivre is actually, so it's French. And it's kind of fun, too, because I get to use my French, which I took for 7 years. Probably the last thing I've ever said in French was this for the last decade. But and I know my French is probably not fantastic. But, the bottom line is this. A lot of people, they're missing that joy in life, right? That they're missing the joy of living. Really, that's what it's all about. So this person wrote in saying, how do I find more happiness in life? How do I find more joy? And I want to really tackle this topic today because, again, it's something that I struggled with. I see people struggle with all the time. And the fun thing is this, that in my own way, and I don't talk about it a lot, but I try to do mentorship for people that are really, they're struggling in life. They're struggling with how can they get the most out of life? And they want to give back and serve others. And that's kind of what today is all about. There's 10 specific steps. Now, you don't have to achieve them all tomorrow, but I want to take you through it step by step. The first is this. A lot of people don't have joy in their life. They don't have happiness because they don't feel they have any purpose. That's the big part. Now, as a mom of 4, this person has plenty of purpose, right? They are literally with the most important job in the world. They're a mom. They are taking care of their children. They are responsible for at least 4 others in their life, and they're teaching them. They're a role model for those children. And I've always said, and I will always say this, and even before I had children, that being a mom is not only is the most difficult job in the entire world, it should have the most purpose, and it can be the most rewarding if you get to look at it in the long term, because day in and day out, you might be doing the same mundane tasks around the home and with your kids. But for everyone out there, and I want to apply this topic now for everyone who's listening, is that without purpose, if you don't know your purpose, you're never going to be truly happy. Now, the tough thing is this, is that we don't always all know our purpose in life, right? Like, I didn't know what my purpose was. I always say it like, I never planned on being a naturopathic doctor as I grew up. That was never even fathomable as a kid growing up in Medford, like, oh yeah, I'm going to become a doctor one day. Like, that wasn't even in the equation. I had no idea what I wanted to be, and I certainly didn't know as I was entering college as well, which is why I went for a very broad spectrum education for my undergrad. And it was fantastic. Like, that was one step. And so that's what I want to talk to everyone for the first part to this is you don't have to know your purpose truly right away. But what you have to do is you at least have to set along a proper path. And that path is thinking about, and I've talked about this a little bit last week as well. So hopefully you're tuning into all the Cabral Concept podcasts. And again, I do try to keep them short. So Here's the thing. You need to write down on a sheet of paper all of the things in your life that you get enjoyment out of, that you enjoy doing, and when you're doing them, time just seems to pass very, very quickly, where if you look at your watch, you're like, whoa, 2 hours just went by. And for a lot of people, it is their work. Sure, that could be it. It is spending time with family, or it might be music, or it might be singing themselves, or it might be art, or it might be writing. It could be any of those things. And then you say, now, if you can make a living at it too, then that's absolutely fantastic. But if not, I just want everyone to understand that your job does not have to be your passion or purpose in life. And I think a lot of times we get confused by that. Your job can also be what funds your passion, your hobby, whatever you truly love. So you have to keep that in mind too, because there's a lot of great artists and a lot of great musicians and people out there. But if they had to make money from doing that, it would cheapen it. And so just keep in mind, start to think of those things. But in life, it's going to be really challenging if you haven't found your purpose. And again, if you're struggling with figuring out like, well, what's my purpose in life? You have to look towards service. The happiest people in life are always those who give. It's a beautiful thing. And when you really look at it, most people really do enjoy buying gifts and giving gifts rather than they do receiving it. Look at that now for all of life. If you can turn that into your job and look at it as a mom, like I'm doing these things and my children, like time goes by so quickly. They're going to grow up and then one day they're going to do it for their children. They're going to be such healthy members of our society. So you have to look outside of yourself, because when you're always looking in yourself for that joy and for that purpose, it's oftentimes difficult to find because it is hidden. So let's move on to the second step. The second step really goes with the third, so I'm going to do them together. And again, I made these up. I made this as part of my overall plan for teaching others, but it does seem to work. Now, keep in mind, everyone has their own path, and so you'll weave in what you feel is best for you. But number 2 I wrote down was unrealistic expectations, and the human experience is number 3. So we have these unrealistic expectations that every day has to be a 10. And I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. When I have people come to me in my Boston practice, and it's a functional medicine-based practice, I see people who are depressed, have anxiety, have psoriasis over their whole body. They might be infants, they might be kids, they might be 85-year-olds, and they have Hashimoto's, and they have rheumatoid arthritis. They have all these different things going on, and then they get well. And so 6 months later, they're in here and they're, again, they were just feeling fantastic. Like, you know what? Like, I don't know. I've been a little stressed lately. I've been a little down. And I say, okay, like, how long does this last? They're like, well, pretty much over the last week. And I say, what's going on? They're like, well, I've been having a tough time at work, this and that. And I let them know, like, that is part of life. Like, you are perfectly healthy right now. You are mentally healthy. You are physically healthy. You are now just experiencing the human experience, which is we go through highs and lows. It's the ebb and flow of life. It took me a long time to understand this, but once I realized that, I was doing all this metaphysical study and I was traveling all these different things, and I'm looking at all of these different people who I thought had it all. Like they had the perfect life. They were stressed as well. And now I understood, okay. And that's what Buddhism is all about too, right? Like suffering is part of the human experience. However, our response to that suffering can be anything that we choose it to. And when we're in a really good place, what we can do is we can say, you know what, today was a bad day. It really was. There's no taking away from it. I'm not going to try to see the silver lining if I don't want to. But tomorrow I wake up and it's a new day. And that's what it's really all about, is understanding that every day is not a 10. That's okay. That is all right, because we're going to have more better days than not. And those bad days are absolutely going to give us perspective into how great overall our life is. And now the fourth thing is this, is that you need to ask for more out of life. Most people are settling for what they currently have. They don't believe that they could have more. And my fifth point is you need to now know how to ask the right questions to get more out of life. So here's the thing. We all grow up in our own community, our own environment, and a lot of us are a little further behind than others. Like specifically, I can think about my grandparents coming here, to the United States, and I can think about then how little they had, and then my parents, they had a little bit more when they were growing up, and then my parents gave us a little bit more. But, we weren't starting off as, I guess the phrase is like, what do they call it? Mayflower money or something like that. We weren't starting off as these wealthy, wealthy people. That's not how it worked. So here's the thing. You only know what's in your horizon. I should say what's right in front of you as part of your community. And so it's a challenging thing that unless you start to look outside of yourself and say it is okay for me to achieve more. And again, it's not always about financial, it's about opportunities and options. Not everything in life has to do with, because I get a lot of questions too about, financial things. And so that part is important, because if you tuned into one of my previous ones about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how to get your needs met and why your needs have to be met first, if you're always struggling, think about how hard it is to give back. Think about how few options you have. Think about, you want to travel, you want to see the world, and then you want to tell everyone else about it. If you don't have money, it's a really, really challenging. It truly is. And that's why a lot of people who do come from money and they're given other opportunities that not all of us do have. However, we can all catch up. And I also believe that not being given a lot of money when you're younger too is very beneficial, because you have to struggle and you have to fight and you have to learn and you have to really then appreciate everything you are given. So to get more out of life, you simply have to start asking the right questions. And the only way to ask the right questions it's going to take a few steps from now, is to start looking at mentorships, reading books, listening to podcasts like this, but on a daily basis. You need to keep this front and center. You're not currently happy with your life, so what do? Well, again, you don't even know what to do, what to change. And so that's why my number 6 is you need to take the bull by the horns. And taking the bull by the horns is an old expression. My grandfather used to use it all the time. And he said, you need to take the bull by the horns. You need to just put your head down and get to work. And my family has just always been about, really hard workers. And that's just kind of like how they kind of dug themselves out and just kept pushing forward. And so the work part isn't always fun. I worked multiple jobs just to get by, really through college and then after college. But I always appreciated work. I understood that, that was something that was actually a privilege, and not everybody gets to even be in the position to work. So again, trying to look at the brighter side. And I also knew that too, I was always working towards something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew if I just put my head down and I did start working towards something to get more experience or whatever it might be, then that would help me out maybe in the future as well. And it also took my mind off of not feeling as well as I should. So the thing is too, it's how did I didn't have mentors, right? I wish I did. I eventually had them, but the only way I even found those mentors was by reading. And again, that's why I have such a passion and love for books, is that's what initially got me there. From 17, 18 years old, I just read, and that was what it was all about. If I had podcasts back then or YouTube, that would have been absolutely fantastic. I can only imagine, really listening as I was doing other work. But again, as you're reading, you can't do other work. So it's not as easy and it's a little bit more challenging. But my other thing is that if you can, try to test out as many things, as many theories in you have in life of what you'd love to be doing, of what you'd love your purpose to be. You don't need to just quit a job and start something else. You could volunteer for a day doing that thing. If someone called me at my wellness center, which they have do plenty of times, and please don't, we have so many requests, but of course I'm always happy to help in any way that I can, just to say, hey, let me volunteer for a month or so, and I'll work and I'll come in on Saturdays, and I'll just kind of see how things are doing and learn by osmosis. A lot of companies will let you do that, and then you can kind of test out the theory of would I like to be doing that or not. All right, let's move on to my 7 points. Number 7 is you can do anything that you want in life, and that's really what it's all about. And again, I learned this at a little bit of a later age, somewhere around 23, 24 years old, where I started to learn that I wasn't predestined to be where I currently was. Meaning that I was reading these books and I was reading a lot about how people had kind of turned their life around, because that's what I was looking to do for myself. And so what I found was a lot of these people came from conditions far worse than myself. Like, I didn't have a bad childhood. I have great parents. What I came from was a limited form of thinking, and I came from also an unhealthy background. My health suffered when I was younger. However, a lot of people had it much, much worse than I did. And so that started to say, like, well, if they came from far worse than me and they got to this level, surely I could do that myself. And now I can teach others that as well. Because remember, if one person can do it, any person can do it. There's no person out there in the world who has a superpower. There isn't. Some people have other talents than others. There's no doubt about that. For example, I'm not musically inclined. I never have been. It's just not in my future. And so I understand that, but I can do other things that could get me to the same level as someone else who might be musically inclined and move to the top of their field for both career or for enjoyment. Again, it can be for whatever part you would like. life. So do remember that, is that it's your choice. Your life really is your choice, and you honestly get to decide. This is not predestined. Number 8 is, and this goes right into it, your life is made up of millions of choices, and you're the sum of all of those choices. That's what it's all about. Like, no one arrives one day at becoming X, whatever that is. Happy, having a great family, a great relationship, meeting the person of their dreams, being able to take care of their parents financially, having their ideal career, getting to travel the world. That doesn't happen. That is literally millions of decisions, because every day we're making how many? A couple hundred decisions. And again, all these decisions are, sometimes they're just microscopic, but it's everything from, what do we choose for food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks to put in our body? What do we choose for beverages? Those are just some of them. What do we choose to think? How do we choose to go to, what time do we choose to go to bed? How do we choose to react to stress? All of these are these are all small decisions, and each one doesn't seem that important, right? That's the whole thing about natural health. No one decision seems that important, but here's the issue. They all are. They all are. Because the problem is they all equal us. They are the sum of what we become. Our actions are what we become. Our thoughts come before our actions, and then our actions are what our body and our mind eventually develop into. That's why, even though it's very, very, very difficult, it's absolutely difficult to start changing the way we think, we have to do it, and we just have to push through and keep practicing, because eventually more of those thoughts and then more of those actions are positive in pushing us to the place that we want to be in life, without a doubt. Number 9, choose wisely, but don't overthink it or procrastinate, since you don't know what your future is. Meaning, like, if you're trying to figure out your purpose, you're trying to figure out your joy, you're trying to figure out your path, just get started. Right? Have an inkling, because you can always change course. You can always pivot. I seem to somehow pivot a little bit every few years. I'm always on my path of health and wellness and all of these things, but I just make these tiny little pivots side to side about other things that interest me. And I haven't written a book in a couple of years now. My new book is going to be coming out this spring, and that now is a giant passion of mine. But now, so I've shifted, right? I just spent the last 12 months doing all these podcasts, and the podcasts aren't going to stop. But I want to write, and so I'm doing a few less appointments now because I need to carve out time for writing. But again, this could change. But what I'm doing is I'm not procrastinating. I'm moving forward, understanding that I can't know what the future is going to be, right? I can't even know what it's going to be 5 years from now. That's why I love when people say they have these 5-year plans. Sure, there's no problem knowing what your 5-year plan is or your 10-year plan, what you're working towards. I totally understand that, and I agree with it. However, don't set that in stone, right? Because we don't know. Set your next 3-month, your quarterly plan, or maybe a yearly plan, and then work back weekly from there, and then daily. You just need to move forward. But again, don't set it in stone, and don't get so overwhelmed that things have to go in a specific direction. Just start moving forward. And number 10, have fun. This is it for all any of us know. And that was what I wrote down. Again, I wrote these down. I was literally, I don't even know where I was. I was outside. I might have just been finishing lunch, and they just came to me, and I wanted to write them down. Again, these aren't all set in stone either, but I wrote down have fun. And the reason is this, and I honestly believe this. I certainly hope that after I am long gone from this earth, that hopefully there is something else, right? Like, I think that's a nice thing that many of us would like to think, that one day I will get to see all of my loved ones again, right? That I will be able to be reunited with them, whether just through energy or however it might work. And we can all have theories, and we can all have religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs and all of these things. And I do agree with them, and I appreciate them. And I think it's very healthy for all of us to have them, as long as they don't pull us in one direction too far, right? But here's the thing. What we do know is right now we are having this human experience. And as we're having this human experience, as challenging as it can be, and as much as we sometimes do suffer, we have to somehow find some enjoyment. We have to have fun. And we can't wait. We can't put off our fun for another 10 years or towards retirement, because nothing is guaranteed. It's absolutely not. Tomorrow's not even guaranteed. Today, as you're listening to this podcast, I hope you take a little time out for yourself. Because again, it's not always about for other people as well. It's also for ourselves. And again, going back to my favorite quote of all time by Jim Rohn, I'll take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. It's my favorite quote. It's the most beautiful quote I believe any human has ever said. And it's also this, that if you take care of yourself, and the person who asked this question, I honestly believe you haven't been taking care of yourself enough. And it's not selfish. It absolutely is not. Because the better you take care of your needs, the more you're going to feel fulfilled, the more you're going to want to then give back to others. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another Cabral Concept. I really do appreciate each and every one of your listens. Please do feel free to pass this along to anyone you feel could help.
Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stevencabral.com/courses.